bhogaiśvarya-prasaktānāṁ tayāpahṛta-cetasām vyavasāyātmikā buddhiḥ samādhau na vidhīyate.
In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place.
Commentary by Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada of Gaudiya Sampradaya. Samadhi means fixed mind. The Vedic dictionary, the Nirukti, says, when the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to be in samadhi. Samadhi is never possible for persons interested in material sense enjoyment and bewildered by such temporary things. They are more or less condemned by the process of material energy. Commentary by Sri Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur of Gaudiya Sampradaya. Those whose minds are attracted by the flowery words, who are attached to power and enjoyment, do not have the determined intelligence fixed firmly on one point, on only the Supreme Lord. The form of the verb na vidhīyate is reflexive passive, meaning in this case is not attained. Commentary by Sri Ramanujacharya of Sri Sampradaya. With regard to those who cling to pleasure and power, and whose understanding is contaminated by that flowery speech relating to pleasure and lordly powers, the aforesaid mental disposition characterized by resolution will not arise in their samadhi. Samadhi here means the mind. The knowledge of the self will not arise in such minds. In the minds of these persons, there cannot arise the mental disposition that looks on all Vedic rituals as means for liberation based on the determined conviction about the real form of the self. Hence, in an aspirant for liberation, there should be no attachment to rituals out of the conviction that they are meant for the acquisition of objects of desire only. Commentary by Sri Sridhara Swami of Rudra Sampradaya. The spiritual understanding which leads to a fixed determination is not achieved by those whose minds are carried away by flowery euphemisms which are temporarily so appealing to the mind of those of limited understanding. Those euphemisms which refer to heavenly pleasures and heavenly delights are constituted by them as the highest goal of human existence. Regarding conceptions of heaven as the highest goal, they foolishly endeavor to attain it by the purview of their limited understanding, believing that once there they can fully enjoy themselves to their heart's content eternally. Therefore, those who are enslaved to wealth, enjoyment, and power for their own sake never are able to receive the spiritual intelligence which leads to fixed determination in regard to surrendering all one's actions for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Commentary by Sri Mandvacharya of Brahma Sampradaya. Arjuna may query why the Supreme Lord speaks about things providing pleasures of heaven. This is clarified by the Supreme Lord in this verse. Those who revel only in the words of the Vedas are known as Vedvadrata. They speak only of reveling in the pleasures derived from actions. Those who speak about the Vedas in expectation of fruits are said to revel therein, and thus they are motivated by desire. The essence and the objective of the Vedic scriptures is knowledge of the ultimate, which is the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is very pleased by those who are devoted to him. The instructions and injunctions within the Vedic scriptures should be known to be applicable solely to the Supreme Lord Krishna and no other. It is the knowledge of the Supreme Lord Krishna that is to be sought and understood. This is what is to be achieved by all living entities to make their life in the material existence successful. Only those in whom spiritual intelligence has awakened have comprehensive knowledge of the Supreme Lord Krishna and the total satisfaction of mind and senses that accompanies it. Verily, this is the means for salvation. Spiritual conceptions do not arise in minds which are influenced by distorted knowledge. In these minds, only a material conception of heaven and heavenly pleasures can be somewhat envisioned, but not the understanding that the Supreme Lord Krishna is actually the controller of all the worlds and the bequeather of all blessings, and that only by serving Him, by His grace, and only by His grace can all living entities attain salvation. Those living entities who adhere to the Vedic scriptures for the purpose of enjoying material pleasures and acquiring wealth and opulence perform repeated acts of ritualistic sacrifice, which while bestowing their material rewards in future lifetimes become the cause of an endless repetition of birth and death in the material existence. One should therefore not become a victim and become prey to those being heretic or devious, who think and act contrary to the spiritual knowledge of the Vedic scriptures, which are revealed in the best interest and highest good of every living entities in all of material existence. Those living entities who are unable to understand the reality of the Supreme Lord Krishna's unimpeachable position and thus unaware cannot have the realization of Him as the supreme ultimate controller of all the worlds, both spiritual and material. Commentary by Sri Keshava Kashmiri of Kumara Sampradaya. Those addicted to material pleasures and earthly delights are excessively attracted by the flowery promises of the Vedic scriptures to the point of bewilderment. Their intelligence being unqualified to conceptualize and meditate upon the ultimate reality of devotion to Lord Krishna, they are unfit and thus unable to perceive and realize the Supreme Lord. As they are of insufficient intelligence, they are unable to become resolute and one-pointed in consciousness because they perform no actions in devotion to the Supreme Lord Krishna. Commentary by Sri Adi Shankaracharya of Advait Sampradaya. One-pointed conviction, with regard to knowledge or yoga, does not become established, i.e., does not arise in the minds, the word samadhi being derived in the seas of that into which everything is gathered together for the enjoyment of a person. Of those who delight in enjoyment and wealth, of those who have the hankering that only enjoyment as also wealth is to be sought for, of those who identify themselves with these, and of those whose intellects are carried away, whose discriminating judgment becomes covered by that speech which is full of various special rights.